Welcome back, everybody. I'm Brad Brown. That's Joe Lissette. We're here for our final round of Stage 2 Legacy, and we've got Phil Silverman on Blue-White Control against Matt Hoey on Death and Taxes. I love this matchup. It's just a ton of fun to play on both
Right.
sides.
Yeah. No, it should be good. And these players have played each other already today and had we were told a very competitive match, and so we have them paired again, and we'll see how this plays out.
So both of these players are playing for 2 points in their pod. So one of them will be 2-1 at the end of this, and one of them will be 1-2 in that stage. Phil started with 0 points this morning in Pioneer, so he really needs this win if he's going to try to top 8 this event.
Yeah. So Phil winning this match would give himself the opportunity to win his modern pod and then be in reasonably good shape to make day 2. Matt Hoey being a little ahead of Phil in the overall standings. If Matt Hoey wins this match and then wins his modern pod, he will cleanly make day 2. And if he loses this match, he would still be in the running.
So here looking at the start, Phil Silverman was on the play. Led on a turn 1 ponder. And then Matt followed up trying to land an Aether Vial, but we saw that Force of Negation pitching a Brainstorm.
I mean, that's a heavy cost to pay, but Aether Vial is cards like your favorite card, Flicker Wisp, is significantly different when it's free and flash versus hardcast.
Yeah, flash Flicker Wisp being able to kind of counter all of those Swords to Plowshares and removal effects is a really big deal. So yeah, the Aether Vial is pretty much must answer. And then we see a Mother Runes come down on Matt's side, but before he gets done tap with it, Phil will land that Swords to Plowshare, which is why we see Matt at 21 life total. Matt's hand looks like a Sanctum Prelate, another Aether Vial, a Wasteland, a Caracas. Pretty light on threats at this point by the looks of it. And this is one of the reasons when I played D&T, I played 4 Canopy every time. Even if I got the bad burn matchup and it ended up costing me a bunch of points of life. Sometimes that just happens, but at the same time, if you don't have the threats, this is a really, really weak deck.
Yeah, and we're on one Horizon Canopy. Only one Cavern of Souls are the utility lands in Matt's deck. We mentioned during the Legacy preview section that there were the 3 Death and Taxes players, each with a kind of a different set of their singleton lands. And Matt's chosen to go with 1 each of Cavern and Horizon Canopy.
So in response to the Sanctum Prelate, you're kind of guessing that he's going to put it on 1, so Phil's going to go ahead and fire off this Brainstorm. And he did pick up a copy of Force of Will, so now I think he's going to decide whether he wants that to resolve or not. Looks like he did, and it is going to be on a 1.
It's tough. Running out a second. Generally, I'm not happy drawing my second Force of Will against Death and Taxes.
Sure.
So, I mean, sometimes you need to use it, but just that's not what you want to have happen.
So Matt putting this on 1, in my opinion, this is the correct number to put this on.
It's a little harsh when I believe do we think Matt Hoey had another Aether Vial in hand?
He did, yeah.
So there's no way to get around that. So that's just kind of he's stuck with it. Although, I mean, he could very easily think to himself, well, if this Prelate on 1 sticks permanently, I'll probably win anyway, so it doesn't matter if my Vial shut down.
Yeah, I think that's true on average. I also think there's a good chance he expected it to get countered.
Sure. Revoker comes down, naming Jason Mind Sculptor, and then Nix's Sanctuary comes down tapped, which is not what you want to see.
Yeah, definitely. So it looks like Matt picked up a copy of Jitte, which is pretty good here.
Definitely.
Can pay for Spell Pierce, although
can't even cast a spell. Yeah.
Right, yeah. So Force Pitch, yeah, okay, that's what I'm expecting. Yep.
Oof, yeah. So
well, the Spell Pierce doesn't do anything for you currently anyway.
Sure, but I believe we had those cards when the Prelate was cast.
We did, yeah.
So yeah, are we happy forcing this Jitte, or would we, if we could go back and advise ourselves, would we rather have forced the Prelate? I think that's likely.
I was very surprised that it wasn't forced, personally. But obviously, Phil thinks he has some type of answer to it.
So Phil draws a Tundra off the top, and Matt, even without knowing Phil's hand, has full knowledge that that Tundra came off the top and that Phil does not have another land because there's no way that Mystic Sanctuary was coming down tapped previously in any other scenario.
Right, exactly. Now, this Recruiter of the Guard is a fantastic pickup format. He'll go and get a Flicker Wisp, which is just I think at this point, like, you want a solid powered creature, so you can kind of close the clock.
Sure. And we see Matt not attack because both of his creatures are valuable enough that he doesn't want to trade them for a Snapcaster Mage.
Right. This Flicker Wisp will blink the Recruiter of the Guard, which is going to get him some more value. We see this play pattern a lot in the Death and Taxes list. And that'll get another Recruiter of the Guard.
Now, in this case, while I understand not attacking with Revoker and Prelate, I think I would have been willing to attack with Recruiter for a damage before blinking it.
Sure.
Because if a Snapcaster comes out and trades with the Recruiter, I think I'm okay with that. Possible that's wrong, but I'm in his place. I think I would have sent in for 1 damage.
My instinct would have been to not attack for 1 and actually make Matt's play, primarily because 1 damage just is such little life.
Yeah, sure.
And getting a whole card out of it is much more valuable to me.
And then we're just chaining. We are actually building up card advantage here on Matt Hoey's side, and Phil is sort of stuck.
So yeah, this is an interesting decision because at this point, I think you want to get a solid equipment down, like a sword, a Fire and Ice would be very good here because you can start generating a lot of damage and card advantage.
Yeah.
Or you could get another Flicker Wisp to keep going wide and keep linking these recruiters.
Well, Matt agrees with you. Picks up Stoneforge Mystic, which is another free card that will come up in the future, not now.
Looks like Phil has a swords in hand. Missed what his draw step was, unfortunately.
What we need is, he has 1 Supreme Verdict and 2 Council's Judgments. That Verdict is really what we need here. I mean, these are not large creatures, but this damage is starting to pile up.
So now we're attacking for 5. It's funny how much of these, like, hate bears sit back on defense a lot in this matchup, which is the right play, I think. Like you said, trading with the Snapcaster Mage here is pretty weak. And right now, you still can't read that Phil doesn't have a Snapcaster Mage. He's certainly not going to block the Recruiter of the Guards, and he can't block the Flicker Wisps. There's that Sword of Fire and Ice, which is what I expected him to get. And he puts a lethal attack on board next turn.
What are we even... Yeah, I mean, obviously, besides having the Supreme Verdict, what are we even hoping to draw here? So obviously something that doesn't cost 1. I think that was a land.
Now, Phil's, I guess in my opinion, is a little flooded here. I don't know how you feel.
Well, it's... He has more lands than he would want, but that's something where if there's a brainstorm... We know he pitched a brainstorm to a Force of Will.
Right.
If we'd had another blue card to pitch, or maybe we might even have a brainstorm in hand right now, or a Jace for that matter, because that's locked out also. So this, I mean, we're flooded, but the deck's not operating the way that you expect it to, and so things like this are going to happen. Sometimes you'll get short, sometimes you have too many, and you have no ability to modify. These decks in Legacy are all built with the intention of cantrips being able to smooth out your draws, and when you shut that ability down, this is what happens.
Right.
This can happen.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I think that's why Sanctum Prelate on average is supposed to go on 1 that early, especially when it's your first threat. Later on, you might put it on 4 because, like, their only out's Verdict, right? And now they have to answer the Prelate first. In this case, we did see Phil had a copy of Snapcaster Mage like you talked about, but he did not want to trade with a Recruiter of the Guard, and putting that sword on the Flicker Wisp made it a 5 damage attack just with the Flicker Wisp plus the 2 damage off the sword, and Phil was already at 7. So,
So we didn't see Phil's full hand, but you were right. There was a Force of Will when the Sanctum Prelate was cast, and that Sanctum Prelate had significant for a creature that never did damage. It had a tremendous impact on the game.
Absolutely, yeah. I think at the end there it was land, swords, Snapcaster Mage.
Yeah, and sword, Snapcaster Mage. That's 3 creatures right there.
Right.
We can kill, and that's completely shut down by the Prelate that just never attacked.
So let's learn some more about Phil Silverman here. Let's pull up his player profile. He's 30 years old. He's a data analyst from Chicago, Illinois. He was our April CT winner, which I believe was Legacy. And he played Storm.
He did, and it was a pretty epic. I was here for that one. It was a pretty epic finals where he went off, made a mistake, and then scrambled and used every single mana and card he had access to and was just barely able to overcome the error.
Yeah. So he's got 2 top 8s and 1 win this year, and then he's 5-5 against the field. That seems to be the general like everyone's pretty much been 50-50 against the field today. He's got multiple GT top 32s and PTQ final losses, 1 SCG Open top 8 and 2 SCG Classic wins. Some fun facts about Phil is he loves bouldering because it's difficult physical problem solving. I used to be a big boulderer myself. I don't have the physique of it anymore, but I agree with him. I think it's a fantastic mental thing that also keeps you very fit. He used to own and wear a polka shell necklace in public.
That's tremendous.
Puka shell. That's is that a fun fact?
I mean,
is that a fun fact, Phil?
I'm not sure. I feel like the first and third facts are more interesting to me personally.
Sure. Multiple time purchaser of 5-pound bags of gummy bears.
Yeah, I don't have a good mental grasp of how big 5 pounds of gummy bears is. But I probably have never done that, I would guess, and most people probably haven't.
So here's the thing about a 5-pound bag of gummy bears. It's not outrageous for me to think that someone has bought a 5-pound bag of gummy bears, but how long did it take you to eat it? That's the follow-up question that I have.
I don't have a guess.
Was that like a weekend snack, or was that like, I ate those over the course of a month?
I have no idea.
If Phil wins this tournament, that's my first question.
All right. It's probably not the first thing he's going to want to discuss, but
you know what? I don't care.
If you're interviewing him, it's up to you.
All right, so Phil Silverman, blue-white control. Let's take a look at the sideboard here. We've got a Vendilion Click, a Palace Jailer, a Flusterstorm, a Path to Exile, Surgical Extraction, 2 Flusterstorms, a Surgical Extraction, Celestial Purge, 2 Disenchant, 1 Force of Negation, 1 Mystical Dispute, 1 Supreme Verdict, 1 Engineered Explosives, and 1 Back to Basics. The ones that stand out to me are the Palace Jailer, the 2 Disenchants, the Supreme Verdict, and the Engineered Explosives.
I like all the. Did you say Path to Exile? Because I think I want that too.
That was the one I was going to ask you about,
okay.
And the reason is he runs so many basics. Mm-hmm. Typically, I like Path when they don't have a lot of basics in their deck because it's just like a 5th sword.
Sure.
I was just going to ask your opinion because you play a lot of this kind of deck.
Mm-hmm. I think it's likely we'd have to go look at what actually wants to come out, but I agree on all those cards that come in. I would consider the Vendilion Click also just because it can disrupt Aether Vial triggers and Stoneforge Mystic drops, but it also is set back by the fact that there are probably 3 Karakas in Matt Hoey's deck, and there indeed are. So yeah, Disenchants, Supreme Verdict, Jailer I think and Explosives I think are guaranteed.
Yes.
Jailer, this is not a matchup I think where you can be confident you can protect the Monarch.
Right.
So also Matt Hoey's probably going to be bringing in his own copy
of Palace Jailer, yeah.
Of Palace Jailer. And so that could be.
It's a little risky, you're right?
Yeah.
Right. If it's like your only removal spell that you have to use, but he's got 2 other creatures, like you're just giving him the moniker.
Yeah. It is, however, it's a card that Prelate's not going to shut down, and it can remove a Prelate, and that could matter.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's take a look at Matt's sideboard here. We've got 1 Walking Ballista. That seems very good here. Or no, sorry. I was thinking the other way around. So 1 Walking Ballista, 1 Canonist, 1 Leonin Relic Warder, 2 Fair Macabre, 1 Palace Jailer, 2 Gideon, 2 Surgical, 2 Council's Judgment, 1 Cataclysm, 1 Deafening Silence, and 1 Pithing Needle.
So I want all the 4 drops.
Yeah, 100%. Cataclysm, Gideon, for sure.
Yeah.
I usually bring in the Council's Judgments in this matchup when they're more Planeswalker heavy, which I think this one's a little close. He doesn't have too many.
Yeah.
I might bring in 1. I'd have to see, but usually the Cataclysm can help answer those Planeswalkers when necessary.
All right, sounds like the players are ready, so we'll get down there and see if Phil can turn this matchup around. I have to say, and this is going to be kind of harsh, but going through the deck list last night, I do think Phil Silverman has one of the weaker deck lists in the Legacy field.
Sure.
I don't think it's particularly well built for the current age of where we're at, where Veil of Summer is available, and I don't want to be playing Mirrors when my opponents have Pyroblast or Veil of Summer.
Right.
And I don't want to be playing against black decks without Veil of Summer. I mean, it's just really those 2 cards. I feel like Phil's deck is built on the card he has that other control decks don't have is Accumulated Knowledge, which provides raw card advantage, which a lot of decks don't have. but I don't think Rock Carnage is all that valuable compared to Planeswalkers on the board or cards that can really disrupt what your opponent's doing.
Right. And it looks like Matt is going to be able to stick this Aether Vial. Now, post-board, I tend to see this, where your Vial is much easier to resolve. There's less Force of Wills usually in the deck. They sometimes leave in a few of them.
There are not only are there less Force of Wills, I agree with you, but also the blue-white player is aware that there are much more significant like those 4-drops we were talking about. Those are cards that aren't in Matt's deck in game one, and those, in particular the Cataclysm, the win rate for blue-white control when a Cataclysm resolves, given any board state, is going to be very, very low.
Right. So Phil's going to lead off with a Ponder on his turn 2. Has a Swords available to him. Matt will take Vial up to 1. Pretty expected stuff so far. Oh, he's looking for another land, maybe? Oh, there's a Stoneforge Mystic. What's this face? Oh, no, he's got a Wasteland.
Wasteland, yeah.
What's this face down card? There it is. Oh, second land, port. And we're going to port the white source. I like porting the white source there, especially if he has a Mother of Runes in his hand.
I like porting the white source only if you have a Mother of Runes in hand.
Sure.
But he does, and so, yeah, you're right.
You still make the play, though. He's going to have the swords. Make him use it.
Yep.
Now we have Thalia. Does he have a Caracas? This is a nice little lock.
Matt Hoey, very animated right now.
Yeah, he is. There's the there's a Wasteland. So I do see a Thalia, which I'm surprised is not going into play.
I somehow, even though now that I think about it, I realize I read this multiple times and yet didn't quite process the fact that Phil's playing Opt in Legacy.
Oh, yeah. Instead of
anything?
Yeah, any of the other ones?
That is...
Maybe he doesn't know.
I'm not sure that I even have an intelligent comment to make here. This is... what did...
I got nothing for you. I got nothing for you. What's the instant speed one that like Miracles used to play on their turn, where you can look at
Portent, I think is what you're thinking of.
Yeah,
so that's
like
a sorcery.
Oh, is it? Okay.
But you draw on the opponent's turn.
That's right.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Opt.
What would you play instead? Like cantrips.
I mean, are we playing? We have full set of Ponders, full set of Brainstorms. So this is, I guess, where everyone else is playing Astrolabes.
Okay.
So your Snapcaster Mages are better I guess, because you have Opt. But you might see this is an extremely high number of cheap card drawing spells, with 10 1-mana cantrips plus accumulated knowledges. I would almost say I'm not sure I've seen a build quite
a lot of answers in chat here. We got Predict, Preordain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, Preordain would be the common.
So now we have
sorcery.
the second question for Phil if he wins the tournament.
Sure.
Why Opt, Phil?
Yeah, I've got to admit I'm more interested in the answer to this question than the other one.
Sure.
All right, back to the game here. We did see the Path to Exile did come in.
Yep.
To take out Stoneforge with Batterskull coming in, so that's hardly call that much of a victory on Phil's side.
Never a real opportunity there for Phil. Once he gets on tap of the Stoneforge, he can always respond or put in this Batterskull. Looks like Thalia is going to come in. And so far, so good for Matt. There's a Cultural Judgment on the Batterskull.
That's
step
much
one.
needed.
You needed the fourth land, too, because that's important. Sometimes you
Yeah.
can get a little hosed on that Thalia attacks. There's a Sword of Fire and Ice. And I think a Sanctum Prelate. A land here, no, is not very good because of the Thalia attacks.
Still not the end of the world because of the canopy. You can cash it back in later. But definitely the hitting the mana source there doesn't matter. Is too much.
I love this. So we're likely getting Flicker Wisp here.
Yeah.
When you got Vial on 3 and you play the Recruiter and you just feel like the world is your oyster.
This is where you're sitting there on the control side and you're thinking to yourself, how is this happening? This deck doesn't even have instants.
Right.
It's a pile of trash of dinky little creatures, and yet now everything is playing instant speed, and I can't just get anything to work.
And here's that Palace Jailer, which isn't good here.
Who Phil has Palace Jailer?
Yeah, he just picked it up. Yeah.
Yeah, that's just...
I don't put this Flicker Wisp in. personally.
You just sit on it.
I'm
Yeah,
just gonna sit on it.
Sure.
I'm ahead on board.
Mhm.
I'm hoping to draw a threat next turn. I
Mhm.
know Matt's a little like threat light. He has a Revoker and he has a second copy of Thalia, but I'm saving this Flicker Wisp for something important.
Okay. Well, let's see what happens. Certainly, if it comes down and then you get swords in response, that's gonna
Yeah.
on the recruiter. That would be unfortunate. There's the activation. There it is. Okay. There's a.
I think we're gonna see Snapcaster
Yeah?
Mage plus swords.
So. So this is not what Matt was hoping for, but it's not terrible.
It's not terrible,
Yeah,
right?
it's just not
I agree
great.
with you. It's just how I approach the matchup.
Yeah.
And Matt obviously has a different opinion and a different thought process in the
Well,
way his hand played out.
I think Matt just drew Palace Jailer, and slamming down right now is going to be incredibly hard to beat.
Yes.
And it's actually okay. Maybe I'm wrong because he wouldn't have done that.
Well,
Otherwise-
you're likely not going to block and chump the Thalia, right?
No, I agree. And actually, Palace Jailer, I'm actually not sure if sealing the other creature is optional. If it is, then playing it right here and not taking Snapcaster Mage would be probably
sure.
better than taking it because you don't want to. Even though your Monarch is pretty safe right now, you still don't want to let your opponent return Snapcaster Mage for no reason. Maybe he just doesn't have it.
I don't think he has it.
Okay, he must not because he would have played it.
Him shuffling cards there, it didn't quite look like it. I think it's Revoker, Thalia, and
Sword.
Sword.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, so we're porting this Tundra. Gonna make a blue.
We have an opt.
Think now he's just deciding, can I afford to like spend 2 mana on this opt? He doesn't have.
Okay,
so
this is a nice trick. This is something that comes up frequently. Is when you get ported, is you play Snapcaster on your upkeep and then play the spell during your main phase.
Sure. I assume he targeted Ponder. And now we're going to still probably in upkeep port the island.
So it looks like we targeted Path.
Okay, Path. I forgot about Path. Sure.
Well, when you turned it sideways, that was So Matt accumulating a lot of land. So his
Sword of Fire and Ice can now like be cast and equipped.
And conveniently feels tapped out.
Yeah.
And that's.
Matt's got full art basic planes, white bordered planes.
There's a revised one in there. It looks like.
I'm pretty sure he did that intentionally.
I don't recognize the artwork of too many different sets like instantaneously, but I know revised basics.
Yeah.
All right, so there's an island. Sword of Fire and Ice could get forced.
With a land, can he go? Yeah, with a land, he can play sword, play Thalia, equip, but it looks like he missed on that. Picked up a copy of Mother Runes by the looks of it. Here, we're going to see that sword come
let's just
down.
throw the sword down. This is a very painful card to have connect.
Yeah.
And it is going to 3-5.
So
I think you pick off Snapcaster, and then next turn, if you connect again, you can just finish.
You win, right?
Fill,
Yeah.
So you may as well kill a Snapcaster on this hit, I think. Matt chose not to do that. Which, if the sword somehow gets destroyed, then he'll be better off this way. Because Matt's at 20. The Snapcaster may just don't matter a ton.
It doesn't
right now.
matter too much, in my opinion, with Phil being at 4 or 6, which is why I think killing a Snapcaster is likely right. But if he would have been at like 7, I think doing the 2 damage is certainly reasonable. Because you want that Flicker Wisp to have a 2-turn clock, essentially.
Yeah.
But I agree with you. Matt being at 20, Phil's likely these Snapcaster Mages aren't going to matter too much. So he did have another land to play. Turns out. Oh, he drew it off the sword. Sure. Thank you, director.
All right, so Phil, what are you?
Palace Jailer.
Okay.
That gets around the sword.
I mean, we're gonna have to take out the Flicker Wisp, and then we can
become the Monarch.
Yeah.
And then we have to chump the Thalia.
if there's not something coming out of that Aether Vial that makes this just completely unworkable. I suppose there isn't. Otherwise, it would have. If there was another Flicker Wisp, it would have bounced the first one to have both in play.
Yes. Well, bouncing a like flickering a flicker is also insane. Oh, there's a Force of Will.
Okay. Well, if
Matt picks up another land, he does have this canopy for a redraw.
There are no. I mean, Matt can't win outside of damage, so you definitely can stabilize and win at low life totals against Death and Taxes.
That's true.
And we are. I mean, now that we're drawing an extra card every turn, like if we can find a way to deal with the sword, or even if we can just find a stream of chump blockers or some that aren't blue, which isn't that easy.
Yeah.
Unless we have Monastery Mentors, and we do have some in the deck.
Yep.
It's possible that Phil could get his way out of this. I wouldn't feel safe until the Aether Vial was removed, but that's like step 4, and we're on step 2 right now of surviving. So that's a problem.
I think this is gonna prompt a Force of Will here. Mother Runes is one of those ways, like you mentioned with the Mentor, you can make some white creatures, but if Mother resolves, now you get to make it pro-white as well.
Mm-hmm.
And certainly that's.
So I think both players have 1 card in hand. Phil does have the Monarch.
Well, Matt has the Canopy.
Yeah.
Which I'm a little surprised hasn't been popped this turn.
Okay. No, I thought that was going to be it right there. But, I mean, saving mana for ports, I mean, Phil doesn't have a ton of land. So saving mana for ports does make some sense. If Matt doesn't have a 3-drop and Phil were able to play Supreme Verdict this turn, Phil would be ahead by a significant margin.
I agree.
Okay.
Likely named Jace here.
Yeah. And then we'll port down a Tundra, I would expect.
Yep. And then, like you said, keeping him off Verdict when possible, so taking out a white source is important.
Yeah. And Jason Muscular, gets named by Revoker. Jace wouldn't... Jace is the card... I think the correct card to name, but it's not tremendously... Like, if Phil were to land Jace right here, it's not exactly going to get him out of this.
No, I mean...
Phil, what can you even draw here? Is that an explosive?
That is an explosive.
1, 2...
There's only a bunch of 2/2s, right?
No, so explosives on 2 here. If Phil knows the rules, this is fantastic. Because for anyone that doesn't know, you can with the intent of declaring explosives cast on 1, pay the Thalia tax with a different color. The explosives will still see it was paid for with 2 different colors, counting the tax as part of the casting cost, and we're coming into play with 2 counters. So you can effectively, engineering explosives can ignore Thalia.
Yes.
Not many cards work like that. In this case, it has an absolutely tremendous effect on the game. Did Phil draw a card there from Monarch? I wasn't looking. He did. Okay.
So there we see that Canopy, Council's Judgment. Well,
and now we have that was the explosives actually killing everything on the board was the same as the Supreme Verdict.
Yes.
Even cost the same mana.
It was.
Except it got around the Thalia, and Phil couldn't have done that otherwise. And now we have basically until a 3-drop hits off the vial, Phil is relatively safe.
And Phil just picked up a Swords, which notably gets around the sword protection.
Yeah.
So Matt's gonna need like a Gideon, I think.
Oh, a Gideon, Cataclysm, one of his his own Palace Jailer.
Yep, that'd be good.
That would be just fine. But he needs one of his 4-drops here, maybe.
Oh, there's a Thalia.
This is
no Caracas to protect it.
Mm-hmm. It's consecutive matches now where we've seen the Monarch just have a huge impact.
Yeah. I love the mechanic of the Monarch. Obviously, it was intended for Commander, but
no, I really like it too. I really like how it changes the scope of the game.
Yeah.
Sometimes you end up in matches or just in almost the whole format where it's really about spells, and the Monarch immediately puts the focus back on creatures.
Right. Absolutely.
Even if otherwise the deck is based on spells, but it changes. Doesn't change the rules, but changes what's important.
Now, Phil's draws off these accumulated knowledges have not been stellar.
Yeah, but
a lot of lands here.
He'll draw out of it eventually with the Monarch.
Yeah.
Did he?
He might have missed
I
that one.
feel like he missed it. And that is...
Yeah,
Yeah, I do not think he drew.
I think he's
I don't think he drew a card, and this is a missable trigger. This is not something where you can say, Judge, I forgot to draw. Can I draw my card? The answer is no. I realize that's upsetting to some portion of players who will be watching this, and some that because the card doesn't say, if you remember draw a card, it just says draw a card.
Right.
But that is in fact the way that beneficial triggers work.
So here's a Stoneforge Mystic's going to come down, and this can go get a Batter Skull, which Matt can immediately cast.
I think the Batter Skull's gone.
Oh, was that this game?
I think I think it's actually see it in the exile pile there. I think you got Council's Judgment.
Oh, that was pretty.
And Matt
early,
actually
right?
whiffs on the on the search there.
Jutei is usually an equipment that comes out in this matchup.
Down,
It's just not.
Yeah.
It's much better in creature matchups.
Sure. The Sword of Fire and Ice that's already on the board is just fine. That's the one has such a big impact in this matchup anyway.
So now Phil might have to burn this Consul's Judgment on a
maybe
Stoneforge
we could also. I mean, we're fetching here. We could get we Mystic Sanctuary, and then we can
put a sword on.
We can get swords on top, or we could stack. How many cumulates have been played this game?
2.
2. So we could stack 1 to redraw 2 cards, which is probably not worthwhile if we don't have.
Well, we need if we brick on that though.
Yeah, we die. No, yeah. If we did nothing else, then and anything that allows us to, Matt being distressed there that Phil has an extra white source there. Anything that allows Phil to prolong the game here is huge here because of the Monarch. Every turn he's just outdrawing Matt. And
I mean, you mentioned it. The Palace Jailer can sometimes be a liability, but if you're able to get the Monarch and clean up the board, you're certainly going to pull ahead.
Yeah, and I mean the Palace Jailer, in combination with the explosives that cleared the board. Without the explosives, the Palace Jailer was just going to die.
Yeah, 100%.
Along with Phil. But here, interesting that he swords the Stoneforge. It's interesting to me that he didn't wait for Matt to spend the mana to equip. Because Phil being at 2.
Well, if you let him draw and he draws a flicker with,
right,
you're
right.
You're gonna be.
You're right. That's the reason. Yeah, that makes sense.
And there's Opt. What do we got? Man, I was thinking like Phil. I thought Phil was gonna tank on that decision. I was like, what could Phil possibly tank on an Opt at this point in the game? So here we see a Disenchant, I think.
That's fine with me.
I think that's the art on that.
Disenchant being able to take down Aether Vial would be great.
So let me ask you this.
Okay, that works too.
Monarch is combat damage? Is that what changes it?
Yeah. Yeah, okay. Ballista cannot break you
That
out
was
of
going
it.
to be my question. Yeah. That would be a sweet interaction. It might be a reason to bring in Ballista.
Sure.
Maybe you do anyway, just for these late game situations where you can put this on 3.
Are we at least have to discuss the choice of killing Sword of Fire and Ice over the Aether Vial.
Oh, sure.
Maybe it's possible it's the right choice.
No, I think that's a good argument.
But I'm skeptical because I feel like the Aether Vial is a threat.
Shutting down the instant
Phil's
speed.
at 2.
Right.
Most of Matt's creatures, even though they're small, will kill him anyway without the sword. I mean, it does prevent some blocking. I like this. The Jace immediate Fate Seal.
Oh, Matt's got a Cataclysm, though, and I think he's going to fire this off. He drew it last turn and didn't cast it.
Oh, wow.
That's a Cataclysm, right?
There's a Council's Judgment.
Picks up another copy of Aether Vial, unfortunately.
Council's Judgment will be very, very... I mean, Cataclysm will be very hard. How many basic islands are in Phil's deck? 5. 1, 2, 3. There's...
How many basic planes? 2?
2.
Oh, wow. Oh, come on, Matt.
I mean, how does he... The only way he doesn't cast it here is if...
He casts Council's Judgment. He could be deciding is Council's Judgment the right answer or is Cataclysm because of the Monarch.
I mean, Phil's already used at least 2 forces because I think a force pitched a force.
6 mana?
Well, that's...
So Cataclysm says sacrifice the rest.
So he's floating mana. Okay, that makes sense.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Right.
And yeah, this is going to completely wipe. I mean, Phil might concede here. I mean, he's not going to because this match matters and he's down the game. But This is incredibly hard to recover from.
Phil's hand has a supreme verdict in it now as well,
Yeah.
and one of the tundras has been wasted.
Yeah, I mean,
this is a fantastic game. I wonder how their first match went. If this, because based on Phil's body language, it kind of seems like this came up.
do we know who won the first match?
That's a great question. I don't
know either.
Yeah, I think Matt squeaked it out, but I'm not sure.
But this is, obviously it's resolving.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is where we discussed earlier briefly. This is what the Force of Wills are for in this matchup. And in the Cyborg games, you have to have really have to have a strong reason to force something else,
right?
Anything else, because this is what matters. And excuse me, Phil still has the Monarch. He's still going to draw a lot of cards,
right. But there's a Flicker Wisp.
What is he? I mean, his mana base is wrecked.
Phil has the swords. Oh my goodness, this game is insane.
I mean, Matt has 2 Ether Vials out. He doesn't even need lands.
Oh, there's a Force of Will.
Oh, it's
a little late.
Yeah, Matt might not cast another spell this game.
Oh, Matt's gonna wait on the Flicker Wisp. That is some gutsy play with this Monarch.
Huh.
Now he knows based on Phil's deck list, he probably has an understanding of there's one island.
Well, also, I mean, he has a port in play. Matt could be waiting for any land to be able to tap the plains, and then
get
vial in to win.
Right.
Phil's at 1, so his fetch lands are dead. There's not many lands that aren't fetch lands left in his
Matt has a full understanding of what this game is about right now.
Matt is very excited.
Matt's like, I can draw lands, I can draw spells, I am golden.
There are basically very few bad draws in Matt's deck and very few good ones in Phil's.
There's a Mystic Sanctuary.
Well,
that's a land.
It's a Mana Source, yeah. It's not a white one, but it's something.
How many white lands does he have left? How many Tundras does he play?
He plays 2.
Okay, so I think he has a Tundra left in his deck. This fetch land could get a Tundra, unless I'm wrong.
But he can't fetch.
Oh, he's at 1.
There are almost no draws in Phil's deck. Yeah, if with Matt Hoey drawing 1 card a turn, if Phil was drawing 5 cards a turn, Matt still might be favored.
Yeah, just because the odds of drawing that
the cards of drawing anything relevant are so low. Phil has missed the Monarch draw.
No, he drew
a few. No, I'm not saying he missed it this turn.
Okay,
I'm saying he's missed it a few times.
Yeah. And it's funny. You drew that Force of Will 2 turns later. If he missed twice, that might have been just enough to get him that Force of the Will.
Yeah.
Those marginal mistakes can really punish you, for sure.
All right, so we draw the Mystic Sanctuary for the turn, which I think we already knew was there from the Ponder. And now we're brainstorming in order to. I don't even know. I mean, Force of Will's dead. Fetch lands are dead. Phil's basically dead.
There's a 2-drop, and now he has a 3-drop as well. I think Matt will go for it at the end of Phil's end step here.
Yeah, you can't find a land to activate that front board, but I might just take. This has been a fun match.
This has been insane. That Cataclysm.
Yeah.
Just really shows you how powerful that card is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And without the
you know what, the other thing I want to say, I love that these guys are just having a good time.
Yeah.
That is so good to see. A lot of people might salt off or tilt off here, and just Phil's such a lighthearted guy. I like Phil a lot. Didn't draw from Ponder, it looks like.
That can't be right. You can't. That one you can't not draw from a Ponder.
Right. In the joking, could have maybe missed it. Our director's looking at it, and if it is a problem that we think will be an issue, we will certainly.
Flicker Wisp to save the Ether Vial from Disenchant, and with the simultaneous bonus of being a lethal threat.
And Matt does have that land now, so he can port.
That was a long time coming.
Okay, so Phil did not draw from the last.
Okay, it sounds like Chad is correct on review. Phil actually did miss a draw from a Ponder.
We will. Yeah.
That's going to be.
I don't know if we're going to be able to rewind that one.
I would say with almost 100% confidence that this will not be changed.
Yeah.
Both players will probably get a warning, one of each kind. Phil for game rule violation and Matt for not maintaining game state, and then they'll continue on, which I mean, I thought Phil was going to die several turns ago, and he hasn't. I don't think my opinion of who's going to win this game has changed.
And I don't think he's like alive because any other reason other than Matt's just
Being careful.
can be
Yeah.
patient.
No, yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
I don't think Matt is even. I mean, he's being conservative, but I think that's fine.
It's the right decision.
Because he has access to so much information based on Phil's graveyard and the deck list. He can just line them up. Lands in deck, lands in graveyard. Ooh, there's not much left here, and proceed on and just try and play around any outs Phil can possibly put together.
So Phil shuffled for Ponder and then pointed to the Monarch and to signify he drew for the Monarch, but not for the Ponder.
Okay, so what happened apparently was that Phil Silverman resolved a Ponder, or shuffled from a Ponder,
yeah.
and then indicated because it was going to the end of his turn, the Monarch, and should have drawn 2 cards and actually only drew 1.
And you can see the converses of our head judge in frame for there just a second.
Result is they're going to treat it like he missed the Monarch instead of the Ponder because it's too late to go back and correct it.
So yeah, it's kind of a good fix from the judge. I like it. Maybe anyway, we're going to treat the draw as though the Ponder resolved, and we're going to treat it as though the Monarch trigger was missed.
Sure.
So
Which
makes sense.
Which is actually like indistinguishable because it was
Yeah.
at the same time you're drawing 1 card either way.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, okay. So the players still get their warnings because it was messed up. They're just using that as a fix because they can't rewind through all that's happened. Phil brainstorms again. I think there's another accumulated knowledge, which is going to draw a grip of cards that
Does he have a blue source?
doesn't have the
Okay,
resources
doesn't.
to cast.
Right. He.
Yeah. All right. So he draws off of the okay. So he's going to draw. It looks like Monarch triggers on the stack. Swords is cast.
And then we'll bring in
and
the
then
Revoker.
Then we'll draw, and then Philip might have to even discard a card.
Does he not have a Revoker? I thought he had
So
a
there's
Revoker.
there's the Monarch trigger.
Yeah.
There
okay,
is
there's-
the Revoker, and
thought for sure, yeah.
without white mana, Phil cannot defeat that. That was pretty entertaining. Yeah, and if you have not seen Cataclysm before, that's what it does.
There
it
is.
Phil has if Cataclysm ignored Planeswalkers completely, I mean, in text it ignores them, but since it says sacrifice everything else,
Right.
the Planeswalkers go. If the Planeswalkers survived, Phil quite possibly wins that game
Oh,
because
for sure.
Jace on an empty board with each player having a land
Just fate sealing
is
over. Yeah.
very different than what we actually had.
Right.
There's one Cataclysm I think in Matt Hoy's deck, and maybe any of the 4-drops would have been good there. Gideon, although Phil eventually had Council Judgment, but I'm not sure he had it at the time.
I do think Cataclysm was probably the best 4-drop
Oh,
there.
I agree with
Yeah.
that. I'm trying to determine if any of the other ones would have been helpful.
Well, obviously they would have been helpful.
Yeah,
I don't
but-
know if they would have been game ending
Sure,
like that
yeah.
though. Because again, like Gideon's great, and it just pushes out a bunch of 2/2s, which can also help threaten the Jace.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, if both of those Planeswalkers are out, it's this real balance of if you make it 2/2, Jace can just minus. Yes, you're not brainstorming or being fate sealed, but you're still like staying parity with the blue-white control, like they're still ahead. And if you ever turn the Gideon into a creature to try to attack the Jace and it gets sword, you
Yeah.
are so far behind. So
Yeah.
it's a real like risk-reward thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I still favor the blue-white player in that situation because the moment they can answer one of the 2/2s with even a sword and activate the Jace, I feel like they're ahead. But Cataclysm there, just removing all the lands,
Yeah.
especially after he'd fetched all of his basics.
I do think this is although this is certainly a way that games between Death and Taxes control play out in Legacy.
Mhm.
I do think for this matchup, this control deck is not as well set up as some other ones could be.
Sure.
The accumulated knowledges aren't really what you would rather have more Planeswalkers or really more of anything else. Than with Thalia in play, these accumulates costing 3 mana.
Right.
It's rough. Especially
Well, I mean, they wouldn't be better as Veils or Pyroblast.
No, they would
right?
not.
So they're marginally better in that situation.
But they would be better as even just like Little Teferis.
Yep.
Or more another land.
Sure. Yeah. I mean,
but we
another land
have
would have been
a number. We have counterbalances in this deck. Those are obviously not worth much in the matchup.
right.
So more sweepers would be because the current era, like the snow era of Legacy control, whether you're playing snow or not, there are, I would say, 2 or 3 sweepers main deck are more common, and you sometimes see 4. Phil's running 1,
Yeah.
which he's not the only person running 1, but that is the absolute low end. And I mean, in matchups like this, you really, I mean, when there's little junky creatures that you don't really want to use the swords on, you need to be able to clean everything up at once. And
Absolutely.
his deck, I mean, he has explosives on the board, and that played a huge role in making that game close.
Right. He was the Monarch for so long.
Yes, he was. I mean,
For
that
so long.
I
Until
mean,
the end, until
yeah,
he died.
I mean, it's possible that was in the history of the Monarch, the all-time record for being the Monarch and yet not winning the game.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe.
But anyway, that is going to wrap us up for round 6. Actually, that's wrapping up
That
Legacy
wraps up
as
Legacy
well.
for today.
So we are going to move into Modern,
Mhm.
and we'll give you probably a pod breakdown on how everything shook out here in just a few minutes. We'll be back. We're going to take a short break and see you soon.